Hello and welcome to the introduction to logic gates in Power in Fallout 4's build mode. The purpose of this video is to show how you can make a door that opens from either side with one switch on either side. Now you may think, well, that's just easy, just put a switch on either side. But a powered door will only shut if it gets no power. This means you would have to shut both switches off. Say there was one this side, you'd have to shut that off, and you'd have to shut this one off at the same time, which in a circuit is not possible. So you need a logic gate. Now say I put another switch on this side and I had it on, the door's getting power, so the door stays open. In the powered door, the door only opens when it's getting power, and we can use this logic to our advantage. So what I've done, simple, that's the conduit that powers the door right there, and it goes down to the switch and it goes down to the generator. I've just told Ada to leave. I don't know why she won't go away. And that's as simple as it goes. So if I turn off the power, the door shuts. And in fact, I can actually show this with the green light off. Turn off the power. It's door shuts because the door is effectively getting no power. And if we were to put a light in between this particular piece of wiring, it'd show that. The trouble is, like I say, you get to the other side and there's nothing you can do here. Even if I route a switch around to the door's conduit from this side, it will still have a power from one of them, and if it doesn't, then it won't open. It'd have to have power from both. So what I've done here, and it looks complicated, but believe me it's not, is a logic gate. And this is an exclusive OR logic gate. And what that means is one of the... Ada, go away, please. If one of the inputs to the logic gate has power, it will shut the door like this. Now, even if you send no power to it, which we currently have, ignore the developers here, there's no power to the door, so it shuts. I can't... Ada,
hey,
fuck off over there.
go there.
Right, sorry about that. Let me turn this back on. I'm going to start again on that bit because I was getting flummoxed by Ada. So let me explain what the logic is here and what the setup is. I have a single generator which goes to this switch, which goes to the logic gate, and that's the end of this component on this side. And the same thing on the other side, but I've had to make it a bit more complicated because it has to go through the door. So I have a single generator which goes up to this power pole, which goes to this switch. The switch is then routed all the way around through the wall using conduit, coming around and to the logic gate. Both the switches are connected to the red connector on the logic gate, which currently isn't on. It's logically said there's no power, I'm not going to come on. It will only come on in a situation where one switch is on, like that. Now it's routing power to the door. But let's say I come over here and turn this on, you'll say, well, it'll route power to the door. The logic gate will say there's two power and I only accept one, and it'll shut the door only because it's actually shutting electricity off to the door. So even though there's power flowing to the logic gate as seen on this Xbox green ring, it's actually said I'm going to shut this off. And there is no situation that I can create. Say I open the door and I don't go through it, and I come round to my base and I go through a different door. Even if I switch this switch, it will shut the door, locking Ada. Ha! You can't come in. Go away. Yes. And it's the same thing on this side. If I open it here and then shut it again, and let's say I come in through a different door that I've powered in exactly the same way, or just a gap or whatever, I can walk up to this door, open it, walk through it, and shut it with just one switch. I don't have to toggle anything. And if you've done a door like this, you'll know that without a logic gate, what I just did is not possible. Now, what you could do is put, instead of a switch on the inside of the door, is have a footpad as your switch. So that as you walk up to it, it will automatically open, and then as you walk through it, it would automatically shut with the same logic. I might do that in a minute if I like the look of it. But yeah, you find logic gates here. Under power, logic gates. And each one transmits if all inputs have power transmits power unless you. What you need to do is actually think of what you want to happen. I used the exclusive OR. It means that it exclusively has to be one or the other. Transmit power if exactly one input has power. Well, since I have two inputs, this wouldn't work in the door case with three, for example. You'd have to think of it slightly differently. And you can hook as many inputs to a logic gate's input and as many as you want out as you like, depending on the logic that you're after. In this case, red is always, by the way, an input, black is always an output, and that's an easy way to think of the circuit, because you don't actually have a positive and negative in the actual build of the wiring in Fallout 4, which makes this a little more complicated to get your head around in terms of a circuit. But I actually do have a circuit coming from there. You can see two wires coming from the generator. They are effectively coming from and to it. And so all of my inputs from the switches are going into the red. The logic gate is then deciding whether or not it needs to send power to the door, and if it doesn't send power to the door will always remain shut. So even though I'm sending power to it, and I can actually disable that, it opens the door. Let's say we send no power to it, like this, and then turn this off. You'll see both of these will go off now, the green rings. It doesn't matter, because the door will shut automatically because it's getting no power. So our logic circuit works here under any circumstances, simply because the door shuts with no power. It'd be more complicated if the door required some other setting to open and close. The door has one state effectively. I'm getting electricity, I'm going to remain open. Closed is effectively its neutral state. So this hopefully will show how useful logic gates could be if you're building a base with a bit more security, or like I say, you could put footpads on the floor and you wanted to do a Star Trek thing, and you could even set up a sound effect next to it to be triggered at the same time, and start really building yourself a nice little Starship Enterprise base. But yes, if any one of these criteria are met, which is one bit of power, the door will open. So if I give it 2 bits of power, it fails the logic and the door shuts. It just stops the power. That's an exclusive OR. Anyway, my name is Vinny Voodoo. I hope this has been useful. If I've gone through it too fast, please leave a comment, and I'll break it down how I built this, and I'll also do a couple of other scenarios, maybe with 2 doors, and all being controlled from a single logic bank, effectively a thought process. And that's it. As always, thanks for watching, and look out for more videos. Now, hold on a minute there, Vinny Voodoo. You're not done yet. I decided to go ahead and replace those switches with pressure pads, just so I could show it was actually possible and doable. Very easy. Literally, I took the switch out, and the wire that went to the switch goes to the pressure pad, and now the pressure pad goes to this pylon, which goes back to the generator. I also put in a little sound generator that just makes a blip noise. Obviously, if you put a PC in this loop, which is found under miscellaneous, under power, let me get rid of that, pull up the if you put one of these, which I currently don't have enough aluminium to put one in, I could then change that tone generator to do something else. But just to show you, you just literally walk up, it opens and it shuts behind you. Walk up, opens, shuts behind you, and you can actually see the little light. If I turn my light off, watch the speaker, there you go, blip, blip. And all I've done with the speaker is come off the logic gate's power out. So it powers the speaker. There's nothing more complicated than that. I could take as many things as that generator will support off that power out. I could have a whole bunch of them playing a little tone or whatever it is that you wanted. Obviously, you could also leave switches in if you wanted to manually override, because the thing I recommend you do is obviously put a computer in and tell the pressure pads to only work on friendlies, because if you don't, then anything that walks up to them will will allow them in. But this door now works in exactly the same way, and I'm glad I did it with the switches, because otherwise it just looks like it's breaking the power and that's all it's doing, whereas there's a bit more to the logic than that, and it would be harder to show you. But as you can see, if I stand on here, the gate goes, the pressure plate goes green, which tells this to release power if there's no one on the other side. And when you stand on this one, it does the opposite. This is actually a simpler setup. You could probably do this without a logic gate. And here's something else that I recommend, just for shits and giggles. All of this crappy wiring that I've got here, you can tuck all of it away. Use that kind of metal conduit, which, by the way, is really, really handy to go through walls like I've done here. And put all of your logic and your generator into a room somewhere way away and call it your electric room. And run the cabling underground if you want to glitch it through the ground, or don't have it all on the door like a big mess like I've got here. Yeah, you would have a Star Trek door just like that, and you could have your little sound playing there, welcome and all that. So this is genuinely Vinny Voodoo signing off. Thank you for looking at this. I'll welcome your questions and comments, and if you've got a specific type of logic you'd like me to set up, a counter or a mini game or something like that, we can certainly have a look at doing that. Thanks for watching.